On the morning of May 25, 1979, the streets of Soho, New York City, stirred awake under a clear blue sky. It was a typical Friday, filled with the promise of summer just around the corner. In a modest apartment on Prince Street, 1-year-old Etan Patz was getting ready for school. With a bright smile and an adventurous spirit, Etan slung on his elephant-printed tote bag, slipped on his black sneakers, and kissed his mother goodbye. He was wearing a blue denim jacket and a black cap, his favorite. That morning marked a small rite of passage for the young boy. It would be his first time walking alone to the bus stop, just 2 blocks away. His parents, Stanley and Julie Patz, had talked it through and decided he was ready. Etan stepped outside at around 8 a.m., vanishing into the busy city landscape with a lightness only a child could carry. He was never seen again. Etan never made it to his school bus, nor did he arrive at PS3, his elementary school. By that afternoon, when he failed to return home, his parents called the police, and what began as a missing child report quickly escalated into one of the largest missing persons investigations in New York City history. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, distributed missing posters, and questioned dozens of people. In an unprecedented move, Etan's photo was eventually printed on milk cartons across America, making him the first missing child to appear in this way and transforming his innocent smile into a national symbol of fear, grief, and urgency. The FBI, NYPD, and countless volunteers joined in the search, but the investigation stalled. There was no eyewitness, no confirmed abduction, no crime scene. For years, the case went cold, haunting the public and devastating the Patz family. Etan's parents never moved from their apartment. They kept his room the same, hoping he might return. Over time, a name began to surface: Jose Antonio Ramos, a convicted sex offender who had dated Etan's former babysitter. In the 1980s and 1990s, Ramos allegedly confessed to fellow inmates that he had taken a boy who looked like Etan. He was never criminally charged, but in 2004, a civil court found him liable for Etan's wrongful death, awarding a symbolic judgment to the Patz family. Still, justice remained out of reach. Then, in April 2012, after decades of silence, the case took a shocking turn. Police received a confession from Pedro Hernandez, a former bodega worker who had been employed in Soho. Back in 1979, Hernandez, who suffered from mental illness and had a low IQ, told detectives that he had lured Etan into the basement of the corner store with the promise of a soda, then strangled him in a panic. He claimed to have placed the boy's body in a cardboard box and disposed of it in a nearby alley, but there were no remains, no physical evidence, just a chilling confession, more than 30 years too late. The legal battle that followed tested the limits of the justice system. Hernandez was indicted and brought to trial in 2015, but the jury deadlocked after months of emotional testimony. The defense argued that Hernandez's confession was unreliable and coerced. Etan's father, Stanley Patz, sat stoically through every moment. In 2017, a second trial was held. This time, the jury found Pedro Hernandez guilty of murder and kidnapping.
I grabbed him by the neck and I started to choke him. I was nervous, my legs were jumping. I wanted to let go, but I just couldn't let go. It was like something, I felt like something just took over me.
He was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. The courtroom fell silent, and for the first time in 38 years, Stanley and Julie Patz had a measure of closure. But Etan's impact didn't end with a verdict. His case ignited a movement. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan declared May 25th as National Missing Children's Day in Etan's honor. His disappearance spurred the creation of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, improved response protocols for child abductions, and inspired innovations like Amber Alerts, school ID kits, and missing persons databases.
This first bill will begin to address the tragedy of America's missing children. Every year in this country, thousands of children disappear from their homes. The Missing Children Act will reassure parents that every effort is being made to find, or in more tragic circumstances, to identify their children.
Etan became the face of every child who went missing without a trace. his story turning private grief into nationwide awareness. Though Etan Patz's body was never recovered, his legacy endures, not only through the reforms he inspired, but through the generations of children whose lives were made safer because of him. Today, when parents feel an instinctive fear letting their child walk alone, when schools teach safety, or when a missing child is found because an alert was issued in time, it is, in part, because of Etan. He left home on a bright May morning full of hope, and though he never returned, his name still echoes in every corner of the justice system, in every "Have you seen me?" poster, and in every parent's heart. Etan Patz wasn't just a victim of tragedy, he became a catalyst for change.